Get started. I want to welcome everyone here. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Angela told me it was snowing out there, but I know it really isn't. And I want to say a very, very special thanks to the Rotary Satellite Group of the Rotary Club of Conifer for their community support of tonight's town hall meeting. And yay! And then also I'd like to thank the Conifer Jazzercise Studio for providing bottled water. So if you'd like some water, it's back on the back table there. Our speakers tonight have been asked to present just the facts and not to support or oppose any development, issue, political agenda, individual, person, or business. And most of you have been here before. I see lots of familiar faces, but I see some that I don't know that I have seen here before. So just want you all to know that there will be no campaigning and no questions or comments during the presentations. So, but at 8 o'clock or before, which will be our open house segment, you can ask all the questions you would like to of all of our presenters. So if you can just wait till then, that would be great. So what's going on around here? First of all, we have an update from the Conifer Chamber of Commerce. Sounds like there's all kinds of things going on. We've got Sharon, Trilk, and Melissa Baker to clue you in here. Thank you, Shirley.
Hello, everyone. Welcome tonight. So we do have a lot going on in Conifer, and we hope you will come out and join us because we've got some fun things coming up. The first one is this weekend. We have our 15th annual holiday wine tasting and Festival of Trees, and that is down at the Willow Ridge Manor in Morrison, right off of Exit 8. And it's going to be from 4:30 to 8 o'clock. We've got 7 wineries for you to taste. We've got 4 of our favorite local food vendors and 2 of our favorite dessert people, the Village Patisserie and Seasonally Yours, coming in to provide us some yummy, delicious fare. And you'll be able to bid on fully decorated Christmas trees and lots of silent auction items. This is our fundraiser for our Conifer Chamber and for our scholarship fund for our Conifer High School students. So the money that we raise goes towards that. Last year we gave away 2 $1,500 scholarships, so we hope to do that again. It is a lot of fun for this event. We have a great time. Some people dress up, some people just come as is, and it's a blast. So we hope you'll join us for that. And then after that, it is Small Business Saturday the following weekend on the 28th. Also that day is going to be the Conifer Community Church's Christmas tree lighting premiere. And I believe we're having a holiday bazaar there as well that day. So there'll be local vendors, and you'll get to see the light show that the Conifer Community Church puts on for us every year. And then I will let Melissa tell you all about our Christmas parade. Oh, and first, before that, we've got 2 new businesses that are opening up in December. The first one is Healthy Smiles. Chrissy Boldra is going to be starting a dentistry practice right below the Conifer Chamber office there at the Cabin Creek building in Aspen Park. And our second one is the Shadow Ops Sims range, which is a simulation gun range, but they do it with lasers and other things for kids and adults alike. So I hope you can make it to both of those. The Sims range is going to be at Brooks Place Tavern. Oh, and Miss Angela, I can't forget you. So if you need to buy the holiday wine tasting tickets, they're $30 through Friday, or $40 at the door, but you can get them from Angela tonight with cash, check, or credit card. We also have holiday raffle tickets for sale. We're giving away $1,000 cash at the Christmas parade, and that $1,000 cash is literally cash. You can get those tickets for $5 each or 5 for $20, and we'll have those at the table over there or from Miss Angela as well.
And Sharon knows all about the raffle because she's last year's winner of the raffle. That raffle is really, really important to us for our Christmas parade. It helps fund the Christmas parade. It's a very, very expensive event that the Conifer Chamber does for the community. So I'm here to tell you about our Christmas parade that's coming up. It's our 33rd annual, and that's Saturday, December 5th. It will be a full day of activities starting at 10:30 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon. The parade will be at 2. So what's going on from 10:30 to 4:30? So we have the Christmas markets this year. We have a 40 by 60 heated Christmas market tent with local crafters and artisans, as well as fun food. There will be funnel cakes and all kinds of good yummy stuff, parade type food. There will also be a fabulous stage with some of our local talent. We have the Marshall Junior High Christmas carolers singing, as well as some a cappella groups. Should be a really, really great time. We will have our Santa Games. This is the second annual Santa Games, put together by the fabulous Masters of Fun. I saw them walk in the door, the Drabbles, Lauren and Simon Drabble in the back of the room. These two are the most creative, fantastic volunteers. They have come up with the best games. So this year we will have our second annual Frozen t-shirt competition at the parade. It's a lot of fun, so we freeze t-shirts, and you have to, it's whoever can take the t-shirt apart and put it on over your clothes at the Christmas parade wins the prize. As well as our brain freeze competition. That's a Slurpee drinking competition. Kids love these things. Our Santa's Milk and Cookie competition. This is the 5th year we've been doing that. So it's how many cookies can you eat in 2 minutes while wearing a Santa hat. New this year, our theme for the parade is the magic of Hollywood. So playing off of that theme, we have 2 new games as part of the Santa Games. We have Be Like Buddy, the elf. There will be some really fun activities that we have planned. I heard something about a belching competition, an impersonation competition, Dress Like Buddy, as well as the Red Ryder Mellow Shootout. So we're pretty excited about these games. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's taking place in Santaland, which is put on by Elk Creek Fire Department. They will be there with Santa and Mrs. Claus, as well as the bonfire. We will also have our holiday trolley. The hay wagon will be going through Aspen Park. It's $1 rides, basically just to help us put together this event because it is expensive. But it's a great way to just enjoy the community, come out, bring your neighbors, bring your friends, and have a lot of fun. If you're interested, we still have parade entry openings available. We have a lot of different organizations joining us this year who've never been in the parade. I do want to make a point that the parade is open to everybody. So if you just think it would be fun to grab your truck and trailer and dress it up, put a wreath on the front, come join us. It really, really is a great time. We line up here at the school, and it's a big Christmas party. So we all get together, we have Christmas carols, and everybody decorates their float together. It's a great time. Let's see, is there anything else I missed, Sharon? Check out both our Facebook pages for the holiday wine tasting and Christmas in Conifer. You can get all of the updates on both of those events if you just like our page. And help us spread the word, let all of your neighbors know. Finally, if you did not get a candy cane from me, I have plenty, and I would love to share them just to share the holiday cheer. So thank you all very much. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. There's a lot of excitement there. It's going to be a lot of fun, so you guys all need to go out there. Okay, next we have Erica Armstrong. She's one of our CAC board members. She's going to just give you a little bit of an update on development up here. Erica.
Hello. So this is one of the shortest development updates we've ever had on the second page of the packet. We try to keep everybody updated on the new building and applications for development. The Natural Grocers opened up last week. That was the big one. There's only 2 new applications right now. There's one on Mountain Spirit Way, and it's just strictly trying to subdivide a property into 2 single-family residential lots. The second one is down at Watson Gulch Road. It's still open for comments, but the application was submitted in December. All it is rezoning. The 2 bigger updates, Pine Valley Road, it's not open for comments anymore. They're still reviewing it after the comments were turned in. But that one has to do with subdividing a 43-acre lot into 4 lots for single-family detached lots. And the other one that was recent on the 16th, there was a home on Armadillo Trail over in Evergreen that was trying to get a wind turbine on the top of a house, and they were denied. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any other permits for that, why they're being denied, and I'm sure that'll be the first of many times that that issue will come before the board. So that's the only thing we've got, and that's it.
Thank you, Erica. You have all the information there. If you have any questions, you have numbers so you can call the county and find out anything you would like to about all of those. Okay. CDOT, Janice Spiker is normally here, and she was unable to come. She had an emergency at the Eisenhower Tunnel. I'm not sure what that means, but could be pretty dicey up there. All she wanted to say pretty much, and she'll give a report at the next town hall meeting, but is that Schaefer's Crossing is done. There have been no issues that she knows of at all. Any accidents, any issues. So hopefully that will work for all of us up there. And again, she'll be here the next time. I thought that Tina Francone was going to be here, our director for RTD. And Tina, are you here? I don't think she's here. So we'll go on. The next presentation is Matt Komos. He's going to be talking about nearby wilderness stewardship and trail maintenance. Matt is the chairman of Friends of Mount Evans and Lost Creek Wilderness. So Matt, here you go.
Good evening, everyone. We're just going to do the technical part. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Conifer Area Council for having us. I am the chairman of the Friends of Mount Evans and Lost Creek Wilderness. Say that 5 times fast. How many people here are familiar with Mount Evans and Lost Creek? Hiked in it, drive past it all the time. It's literally in your backyard. So there's a purple line going through there that's 285. And Mount Evans is to the north, and Lost Creek is to the south. And combined, they represent 200,000 acres of land and about 350 trails. 350 miles of trail. And they're actually managed by 3 different ranger districts: Clear Creek, South Platte, and South Park. So those are the Forest Service ranger districts responsible for these lands. These areas are protected under the Wilderness Act that was passed in 1964. So there's very specific use guidelines with regard to wilderness. And they tend to have a kind of higher designation than other areas, but they are public lands. And if you're interested, we can get you some information on the actual act. So who are we? We are a local 501c3 nonprofit, 100% volunteer-based, that aids the Forest Service in managing these wilderness areas. So I haven't figured out how to make this a paying job yet, but I'm working on it. We do have a lot of great volunteers in our group, and what we do is we go out and do trail patrolling. So we go out for a hike. We gather usage statistics, we note any kind of wildlife we encounter, and we report that data back to the Forest Service just so they get an understanding of which areas are getting heavy use. We also do a lot of trail maintenance and trail building. So in the wilderness we have bridges and areas that have erosion. So we have to go in and help maintain and repair those trails. And if you've been in either wilderness in the last number of years, we always find blowdown. So trees that have come across the trail and kind of block the way. Well, our group, along with some other local groups, Colorado Mountain Club and Volunteers with Outdoor Colorado, we go out and we cut those trees out so that the trails become passable. Because we're in wilderness, we have to use primitive tools. So no chainsaws are allowed. We hike in with crosscut saws and axes and rock bars and all kinds of different tools that we use to clear. And, after a 10-mile hike, it can be quite a tiring day. Really, our role is to provide a uniform presence in the wilderness. We try to provide education. So we promote Leave No Trace. And we try to educate the public about Leave No Trace principles, leave things better than you found them. And we try to look for weed infestations. If many of you might be familiar with musk and Canada thistle, they're pretty common along in the wilderness. So we actually go out and do manual treatments. We actually contract with a local organization that goes in and does chemical spraying. And we do, this is pretty much our whole summer is slammed with doing this kind of work. But then we also are running a nonprofit, so we have marketing, we have a website, we have business meetings, so it's quite busy throughout the year. This past year, this is just some of the highlights, but we had a total of 87 volunteers out on the trail and made 200 public contacts. We volunteered almost 2,900 total hours, which is valued at almost $75,000. And so this, we truly represent, we kind of replace potential full-time employees that can't get hired. We do all hands days, so we get our entire group out on different trails in a given wilderness. We go do a bunch of work, and then we drink beer and eat food and hang out and socialize after. So we make sure we have some fun as well. Just a couple weeks ago, I actually was at a wilderness workshop in Missoula, Montana, and that was a great experience. So bringing people that work within wilderness, both in the agencies and out of the agencies together, talking about best practices and things that are goals over the next 5 to 6 years with wilderness management. We always conduct a spring training, so we train our volunteers and we have them go through kind of what the experience out on the trail might be like. We actually do an experiential hike, and we do our training out in Shawnee at the Forest Service AG Ranch. We do, our initial patrol assignments, we hook up mentors and mentees, and really start building the groundwork for the season ahead. And at this point, we always have kind of what we expect to do over the summer kind of set, in stone. This is where it gets fun. We get to see all the pictures of the fun work we did. So this was our first all-hands day in Bear Track Lakes and Beaver Meadows in the Mount Evans Wilderness. On the Bear Tracks Trail, there was actually a ton of log jam that was underneath a bridge, and what was happening was it was creating flooding on the trail, so horses couldn't get through, and it was just a mess. And so Kirk was part of that crew, and I don't know how long did it take? Most of the day, right? Probably about 10 hours. Yeah, the water level was dropped by 3 feet from moving the logs that were blocking up the creek. What we did too was we had at the trailhead, we basically had a big feast, and we'll see a picture of that. Go ahead, Craig. This was at the Beaver Meadows Trail. There was a huge, basically the trail had eroded, and so logs that we had cut out 2 weeks earlier were brought down from higher up on the trail and dropped in to make kind of stair steps, and then the trail was filled in with dirt. And so again, it's really to make sure that there's no further damage being done to the trail. And then here was the party afterwards. So, after a long day of work and being out in the heat, we had a nice meal, cocktail, socialization, and then this was our opportunity to also engage the public and get them interested. This was our second all-hands day. This was the Lost Creek Trail in Mount Evans, and this bridge was basically in place at 3 points, and one of the fourth point had literally eroded from underneath, which made it really unsafe. So we had to jack the bridge up and place rocks underneath to stabilize it. And again, we can't use any kind of mechanized form of tools. Everything was done by hand. So we were moving boulders and jacking up the bridge using hand tools. Here you can see where we had to stabilize it. and you can see it's pretty uneven. And there's the finished job. And the manager of the state wildlife area hadn't been able to take his horses through here in like years. And he actually was able to get horses across here. So again, he was appreciative of this work, and if it didn't get done, this was an area he couldn't go, take his horse, or other, users of the trail couldn't bring their horses out. If any of you have been up to Bear Tracks Lakes, it's been a mess for the last probably 4 years. There's a huge blowdown event, and about 400 acres were blown down, and there were trees. I can't even tell you how many trees. Our Forest Service rep estimated throughout that whole blowdown, we probably cut out 12 to 1,400 trees over the last 4 years. So this has been a project that's been going on every summer, and this year it finally was open, so you can now get to Bear Tracks Lakes from the trailhead. We actually brought a Rocky Mountain Youth Corps in to do work for 5 weeks, and all they did was cut trees. So this was, just a couple weeks before that got cleared out. One of the things we've started doing is branching out into potential corporate sponsorships. So Cabela's is actually an area that we've done a lot of good work, and we did some backcountry cooking demos, and we did a crosscut demo. The bottom left corner, I think that kid was probably about 2 years old, and he came, and what we do is we cut what we call a cookie, and we branded it with the Cabela's logo, and all the people that came by got to take one home, and so we're actually setting up to do that again multiple times next year, and they're potentially going to outfit our uniforms. So, and a lot of great work was accomplished. So these are crosscut saws that I was talking about, all by hand, and hiking 10 miles carrying those is not always fun. But we also do work with the the front country horsemen, and they a lot of times will bring our tools in for us. Just some more shots of blowdown work. And of course, you cannot forget the scenery. That's why we're all out there, right? The left-hand side, that's a Captain Mountain. Those are famous musk thistle that we pulled out by hand. We were popping all the heads off and chopping them down. And then the right side are both in Mount Evans. Upper left is Ben Tyler Trail. That's in Lost Creek Wilderness. And then on the right side, that's also in Lost Creek, and the bottom left is Mount Evans. And this was a day of doing work at Bear Track Lakes. This was one of those 12-hour days. We cut out about 24 trees. We started about 8:30 a.m. and finished at 8:30 p.m. At the trailhead. But it was a fun day, if you're into that kind of thing. So thanks for hearing me, and if you're interested, I'm going to be sitting back here at the table, and appreciate you listening to our presentation.
Thank you, Matt. Kirk works with this group, and now I know why it's the beer and pizza, right? Okay. Well, as you know, the election happened a couple weeks ago, and so now what? Rebecca Winning is the director of, what are you? Director of Communications with Jefferson County Public Library. She was here at our last meeting and told a little bit about what might happen, but she's here now to tell what has happened and what that means for us. There you go.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here talking about expanding library services as opposed to cutting and reducing and eliminating services to balance our budget. We did get a mill levy initiative passed on November 3rd, and we are now working on delivering on our promises to Jeffco residents about the improvements in library services. So we have some steps we need to take. On Tuesday this week, we presented our revised budget based on, increased revenue from the mill levy to the Board of County Commissioners. They've asked us for some more detail, which we'll be providing this week, and hopefully that budget will be approved on December 8th, and then we can start rocking and rolling. In the ballot initiative, and when we were out talking to the community, you may remember we made some promises about what you could expect to see if the mill levy were to pass. And the first priority for us is to increase service hours at all 10 of our Jeffco libraries, including the Conifer library. So we're still working out what that will look like. We're going to have to recruit additional staff to staff those hours, recruit and train. So we're anticipating that the expanded hours will be launched in early April. April 4th. That Monday will be the first probably time you'll see expanded hours at the libraries. But that planning is underway. We're very excited about that. In 2016, we intend to spend an additional $2 million on our books and materials budget. We've been spending less and less on books and materials, so now we've kind of gotten behind. So we're going to significantly increase that investment so that we can start to catch up, so you can expect to see more of your favorite books and materials at the Conifer Library. We're working to update technology across the whole system, and we're working on delayed capital projects. We don't have anything on the docket for Conifer for capital maintenance in 2016, but you can expect updates to that library, as we go forward. So that's kind of the summary of things. We'll be announcing more detail once the budget is approved and once our planning is completed. But we hope to see you all at the Conifer Library enjoying our expanded hours and better resources. That's it.
Thanks, Rebecca. You probably found that the community loves the Conifer Library, so thank you. Okay, there's a few other things that were on the election on the ballot, and Pat Bouchard is going to talk just about a couple of them very, very briefly. Pat?
Very, very briefly. I was called in at the last minute because apparently we had some no-shows. But as you know, on the election there was 3 different things on the ballot. One of them was the recall issue, which I think everybody knows how that turned out. The other one was the library, which we just heard about. And the other one was Proposition BB, which that proposition was to say that the state can keep the $66 million in excess tax revenue that they raised from the sale of marijuana. And if it had not passed, then we would have all gotten a huge whopping $8 check. So instead of us getting an $8 check, the state's going to keep the $66 million. According to the proposition, that money is supposed to be used for construction in our public schools and for other state programs, primarily the education of marijuana. We will be waiting to see what happens. That's the update on that third proposition. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. And next, we asked Meyer Jr. to talk a little bit about an update, kind of a status update on the Meyer Ranch events. So, Norm.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm sure a lot of you know me. Norm Meyer Jr. grew up in the big yellow house down there, and of course, many people knew my father, Norm Meyer Sr. So, just quickly, I've been asked to throw out a little bit of information and to kind of update people on what's going on down at the Meyer Ranch Events Center part of the ranch. Now, this is a private property and it's not part of the open space park. As you know, we do music concerts, and we have done the barbecue for the Rotary and events like that. Generally, for the benefit of the community, we do have free Thursday night concerts, which benefit everybody who likes to come and listen to free music. The plans for next year are up in the air. There are a few things we need to change before we go on with the next year. and those are in progress. The original goal, my goal, and sort of the goal of the family originally, was to have the ranch become a public place where everybody can enjoy the property and share it and hopefully take care of it down the road. So I'm optimistically looking at like a 100 or 200 year plan for the property. I would like to get the property that I own into a type of situation where it's being managed by a long-term organization, foundation, government entity, something like that, so that the property can be, like I said, 100 years from now, people can still go in there and have a good time. And then, of course, surrounded by an open space park, you can have the best of both worlds, in my opinion. In other words, have a place to do activities and a place to branch out and enjoy the park. So, the comment I'd like to make here to kind of wrap things up, I know that there's been a lot of interest in, of course, the bicycle and pedestrian trail that's coming all the way up from Evergreen, runs through the Conifer area, through the high school, in that zone, and of course it's coming down through Aspen Park, and it's going to be going all the way to open space down in the area of the big yellow house. So to facilitate that, or actually to make that happen at all, we do need to do some modification on the conservation easement that exists, and we also need a lot of community support to make sure that that area is included in an activity area or an activity zone, if you will, so that the possibilities down the road are not real limited, and that we can go ahead right away and put in the bicycle trails and the maintenance roads and things like that. And that will be a great benefit, I believe, to the community, because it'll connect all the way up down to basically South Turkey Creek. And then you've got the underpass there, so you can get to the south side of the open space of Meyer Ranch there. So I think that's something that people should think about and realize, or think in the long term, what we can all do to make sure this property, this beautiful piece of property, and that I've been blessed to just take care of for a while, you know, as we're here on just for a while on the planet. And I think it's appropriate to have that property be in the public domain, as well as the open space, of course, which is already there. So that's about it. I will also be here after the meeting, and anybody has questions or comments, I'll be in the back here, and I'd be glad to address that. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for giving me a few minutes to help share this community dream with the community, okay? Thank you very much, folks.
Paul, do you want to come on up? Paul just has a little bit of an announcement of something in the future, but it's the Relay for Life, the American Cancer Society, and he's just going to take a couple minutes to talk about that. Paul?
Thank you, neighbor. My name is Paul Ogle, and I was just commenting to Conifer's official volunteer how fast sort of faces changed. It seems like some years ago I knew everybody that came to these meetings. I'm citizen Ogle right now and don't have any officer. I'm one of you all. But cancer has been a problem in my life. it has taken so many people who I've been close to, and over the years I found that it touches most people in their family or friends. It touches all of us. And so I kind of regened up the Relay for Life, which is a way to fight back and actually do something about cancer 3 or 4 years ago over at the high school. And I don't know if any of you remember when we did that, but it's something, and I said to Shirley if I could just do a quickie save the date thing. It'll be the 19th and 20th of next August. And what we're doing now are looking for people who would like to help us a little bit, just get it organized. And so this is somebody who maybe would like to do something about cancer, fight back a little bit, help us get it organized. We sort of zigzag between here and Evergreen because really the two communities are very connected, and certainly as far as cancer goes. And we think between the two we can make a real difference and make a dent. I coached basketball over at the high school just as a volunteer for a long time, and so I always had special feelings for Evergreen. They were the bad guys. But the truth is, in this fight, they're the good guys, just like everybody here. I'll hang around. I hadn't quite expected Shirley to be so generous, but I appreciate it. I'll hang around too. If anybody would like to help, like to know information, or talk a little bit about the American Cancer Society or Relay for Life, I'd be glad to do that. Thank you. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, next we have Heather Gutherless. She's the senior planner at Jefferson County Planning and Zoning. And as most of you probably know, working on a community plan update. And she'll probably tell you this, but the original one was done in 1987. We updated that in 2002. Many of us that are Conifer Area Council worked on that one very long and hard. And now they're updating that again. So she's going to be talking about what are the suggested changes to the Conifer 285 Corridor Area Community Plan and what will be allowed in the Conifer Aspen Park Activity Center. Heather. I'm going to actually give my presentation.
It may take me just a couple minutes to get the presentation up.
So while she's doing that, we will have open house right after this, and please stick around because all of our speakers will be sticking around to answer questions, comments, whatever. So please stick around after this.
Thank you. Shirley gave me a great introduction as far as what I'm going to be talking about tonight, which was one of my first slides. First, I'll give an overview of what the Conifer Plan is, what it does, how Planning and Zoning Jefferson County uses it on a regular basis. And then I'll be talking about some of the key changes in this plan from the previous plan that was done in 2003. And like Shirley mentioned, the original plan was done in 1987. First, I want to talk about what area it covers. And it is a very large area. The map shows, let's see if I can. Here's C470. And then 285. And the Conifer Plan is a very large area. It's one of our largest plan areas in Jefferson County Planning and Zoning. It covers all the way from Turkey Creek and the Tiny Town area, down through Conifer, Aspen Park, down through Schaefer's Crossing, Kings Valley, then all the way down to Pine Junction. It goes to the Park County line. And then it even goes down Highway 126 to Pine Grove, Buffalo Creek. It basically stops at the Forest Service, where most of the Forest Service is. Although we are going to be including some language about some of those Forest Service enclaves in this plan. And then it goes all the way east, almost to the Waterton Canyon area. What does Jefferson County Planning and Zoning use the community plan for? We use it as a guide for future development. We look at what areas could be good for future growth and what areas maybe need to be preserved as they are. It is mainly used when Planning and Zoning evaluates rezoning cases. But what is a rezoning? A rezoning is when somebody wants to change their allowed use. So the zoning on somebody's property is whatever they're allowed to do. Jefferson County has our zoning resolution. Let's say you're zoned agriculturally. That means you're allowed to do maybe one house per 5 to 10 acres. And then you're allowed to do a variety of ranching or farming type of uses. Vet clinic is also included in that, even cemetery. If somebody wanted to change their zoning from agricultural to residential or commercial, they would need to come into the county and go through the county's rezoning process in order to make the change from agricultural to a commercial or residential use. And that is when Jefferson County Planning and Zoning staff looks at the community plan. What does that community plan recommend? Is it something that we are going to be supporting, or is it something that maybe is not appropriate for the area? We do the planning through a lot of contact with not only staff and different agencies in Jefferson County and also outside of Jefferson County, but we also do an extensive community outreach program to try to get what the community wants to see in the area as well. One big thing to note is that this plan does not rezone anybody's property. So let's say the plan, maybe you're in the Conifer Aspen Park Activity Center and it's recommended for commercial, but you're zoned currently agricultural. This plan would not automatically change that zoning. You still need to come in, go through the county process, which does include some public hearings and public testimony. And then that's when a property can possibly be rezoned. But this plan does not change the zoning on anybody's property. The key changes that I'm going to talk about tonight are the changes in the Conifer Aspen Park Activity Center, the Conifer Loop Access Plan, and then the specific land use maps. So first, overall, to take away from the Conifer Aspen Park Activity Center, this is a center that was designated before. It was called a village center. We're changing the name because we are adding all of our community plans into our comprehensive master plan and trying to basically make all of our language similar. But the big takeaways on the Conifer Aspen Park Activity Center is that we looked at the core of where that center is, and I'll show you a map in just a minute, but along 285 and Highway 73, and we added some potential commercial uses right along the core of the activity center. And we also added some potential residential to the core and to some areas that were already designated for residential to allow for a broader range of uses. So this is the map of the activity center, and you'll be able to come over. I have a 24 by 36 version of this map, and you'll be able to come look at it in more detail during the comment period. The pink area, the very eastern edge, is Eagle Cliff Road, sorry. And the pink area is where like the King Supers is, and it goes along Sutton Road. And Sutton Road is kind of the northern boundary line of the pink area. The pink, the reds, the orangey, and the crosshatch, those typically show more retail, office types of recommendations. The pink is an area that we did do some changes. It was recommended only for retail and office before. During several of our visioning sessions, we heard from people that as people age or as people's children grow up, that maybe there's a need for additional housing in the activity center, maybe on smaller lots, possibly even some townhomes or multifamily type of uses. It seems like those types of, since they're more dense, might be more appropriate near commercial areas. So we added residential as a potential use in those areas. Then as we move further south, I can actually point at this one. There's the Safeway Center. Right north of that was an area, it was recommended for residential only. Since the last plan, or around the same time as the last plan actually, the county did a Main Street feasibility study, which showed Main Street being extended through this property. And therefore, we added some limited commercial uses to that area because there could potentially be a road through that area in the future. Then, with some recent rezoning changes, there was a rezoning on that property back several years ago, which allowed for residential and some small office type uses. So we updated that recommendation from only community use to also include some of the residential zoning and office zoning that's in that area. Then, further south, in the crosshatch, right there, this area was recommended for only retail and office uses, and the red is only retail office uses, these two. In this area, there were some existing residential uses, and this seemed like an area where it might make a good transition between the old Safeway, where the Staples is now, and the Conifer High School, having some limited commercial and residential opportunities in this area. So a mixed use type of area. Those are the big changes to the area. I know that Norm Meyer just spoke, and at one point in time with draft 1, we were looking at including a portion of the property, some property to the east of Eagle Cliff Road, some of Norm Meyer's property, as maybe a community event center. And we did receive a lot of comments and concerns about some of the more recent events. We looked at that and thought, well, maybe what we have on the books in our comprehensive master plan and what can be allowed under our special events permit might be enough for that property at this point in time. So we did not include that in the activity center with draft 2. Next, I want to talk about the Conifer Loop Access Plan. This is a new map. This is a concept that's always been in the plan, but I just wanted to highlight that this map is a newer map that will be separate. Before, there was always a map that kind of showed the Aspen Park area, and it showed a road that could allow for people to get around the Aspen Park Conifer area without having to get onto 285. This plan basically shows the existing roads that people can use to get around this activity center without having to get on 285. And then it shows some potential connections in the future. And some of this is based on the Main Street feasibility study that was done in 2003, and some of it was done based on some other development proposals that have been in the area. So that is a new plan, and there's some additional policies in the Conifer plan that talk about this loop, whereas before it was maybe one policy that talked about how there should be an access. Here it talks about how the access should be not just for vehicles, but also to include pedestrians and bicyclists, maybe even horses. The third big change that I wanted to talk about is the specific land use recommendations. This is the current land use map that is in the Conifer plan right now. It was really good because it took a lot of those physical constraint factors in, and it had land use recommendations purely based on physical constraints. It made it a little difficult for staff and citizens and developers to understand what exactly was recommended for various properties. And you can see that various properties, they might be split by different recommendations. The ranges were very broad. It might be anywhere from 5 to 35 acres in one area is the recommendation. And who knows what that means? I mean, is it 5 acres or is it a 35-acre lot that's recommended? And you get varying opinions on which should be recommended in that area. So what staff did was we looked at all those physical constraints. So all of those physical constraints, such as slope and wildfire hazard and wildlife habitat, those are all still built into the plan and recommendations. But as a staff, We looked at those. We also looked at compatibility with the surrounding area and access as far as roads go. And we made up specific recommendations for every single parcel in the Conifer area. Made up, I shouldn't have said made up, we determined, I guess, we figured out that what different recommendations should be. The recommendations, we no longer have the range. So we have 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres, 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres. We have in areas, and these areas are outside the activity centers, so I just want to make note of that, that outside the activity centers, typically those are areas that are going to be less dense. And so it's more 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres. We also have a new category that we call area of stability. And on the maps, those are gray areas. Those are areas where maybe they were subdivided or zoned a long time ago, where maybe the lots are smaller than what we would recommend today, but they're already built, they're already zoned, and so let's just kind of leave that character the way it is. And if there's any future proposed development in that area, it needs to conform with the existing character of the area. I focused in on this area specifically. This is the Kings Valley area, and another thing that we did outside of activity centers that wasn't in the previous maps was that we looked at existing commercial areas, and we actually showed where those existing commercial areas are on the maps. And there is some allowance for maybe some slight expansion of those commercial uses, as long as it is similar to what is already allowed by zoning. And I wanted to bring up the Kings Valley area specifically because we might get comments on it later. You might have comments on it. There was a proposal to have a new activity center for the Kings Valley area. So it would be an area where we wouldn't just be looking at what all was already zoned for commercial, but could there be additional parcels that could be rezoned in the future for commercial. Staff felt it was a little bit premature to add in another activity center. We do have a lot of vacant commercial land in the existing activity centers. And in the Kings Valley area, the improvements to 285 are planned, they've been designed, but they've not been constructed yet. So staff, in the plan, we decided that we would not designate this as an activity center at this point in time. However, we would look at if 285 comes through and is expanded in the future through this area, maybe we need to do another planning process, not only, and we're actually revising the language, in the process of revising the language, maybe not only for the Kings Valley area, but maybe we need to look all along the 285 corridor when it's expanded in the future. Next steps. The second draft of the Conifer plan is out right now. Comments on that are due November 30th. I do have several hard copies in the back. They're also online, so you can look at them online and then send in comments. After that, there will be a final draft that will probably be out end of December, early January. There will be a planning commission hearing. The planning commission hearing has been scheduled for February 3rd. That is different than previous. Previously, we wanted to try to get this done by the end of the year, but we've had some issues with staffing and everything at work, so we have delayed that a little bit. But February 3rd is the Planning Commission, and they are the final decision-making body on this. If you have comments, you can give them to me tonight. I have a notebook that I can write things down on, or send me via email, preferable, any comments that you might have, or a letter, or you can give me a call, but I prefer to get something in writing. Thank you very much. I'll be over there answering any questions and taking any comments.
Thanks, Heather. Okay, so Heather has some great maps over here. She's got all kinds of handouts. You can ask any questions, tell her what you didn't like, what you liked. Please do that. Norm and his sister Sharon are sticking around, Norm Meyer. So, you know, talk to them. The Friends of the Mount Evans and the Lost Creek Wilderness are going to be around if you have any questions about that. It looks like a lot of fun, especially the pizza and beer, right? And there's a lot of other people here. The Trails group is back here. So please stick around for a little bit. I'd like to, one last time, thank the Rotary Satellite Group for their community support of tonight's meeting. Thank you all for being here. Please tell your friends and neighbors and have them come to the next one, which will be Wednesday, February 17th. So please come back on February 17th. In the meantime, happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays. Thank you.